Over the last few days, I've seen some forum posts, people talking about performance and security concerns around code snippet plugins for WordPress. It seems that a lot of people rely on them a lot more than I ever thought that they did. And it never really occurred to me that so many people were using these things in production. Probably because I've always just used them for development and then moved everything someplace else before going live. So the fact that we've got some people that are raising these concerns and so many people that are surprised about these concerns prompted me to record this video today. So I'm going to apologize in advance. This is kind of unscripted, and I'll probably stumble over my words just like I did right now, like I always do when I'm not reading from a script or using a PowerPoint deck. So please bear with me on this. But I thought that this information was important to get out there, and I wanted to share it with you rather than spend a day writing and scripting and polishing and doing all that stuff. All right, so enough of that. Let me just jump right into it. The big concerns that people were talking about, that I saw at least, were around security and performance. Performance, let's first talk about this. I'm going to switch to a WordPress site. And there's a few products out there that do this. Really, the kind of products that I'm talking about are code snippet plugins, things like WP Codebox. That's the one that seems to be very popular right now. Code snippets is another one. Let me just do a quick search here. Add new. There's a ton of them out here. Yeah, so code snippets, this is the one that's been out there for a very long time. WP Code is another one. There's a ton of these things out there. And really their purpose is to give you an interface inside of the WordPress dashboard to add things like PHP code, JavaScript code, even CSS. These things are really handy, especially the newer ones that are out there. Some of them here like WP Codebox, and I love this product, by the way, and I'm not picking on any particular product here because I do think that they're very handy, and WP Codebox in particular has been just fantastic. The developer's been great about adding new features and really keeping security and performance at the forefront. However, this kind of solution does have its problems inherent in it, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. But anyway, so the reason for this is that you can come in and you can look at a repository here. This has got an online repository with just a ton of different code snippets that you can one click, download this thing, click this little enable button, and boom, you've got this code running on your website. Compare that to what you would normally have to do with FTPing functions.php files back and forth or doing things with child themes. And this is a lot more convenient. And it's a great way to test things out, especially for people who are learning how to do new stuff in WordPress or people who are using page builders that don't have an easy way to mess with your CSS code. Using these is just a really fast and easy way to do all this stuff. And that's great. That's what this is all here for. What I'm arguing against is leaving this on in production, because in production, you run into all sorts of issues that don't really matter in your development server. You do run into performance problems. You do have much bigger security concerns. So let's talk about that for a minute. And I glossed over what these things do and what they are. If you're watching this, hopefully you know what a code snippet plugin does. If you don't, you can go on to, I'm just going to say, go into WP Codebox, go onto their website and check it out. And it'll give you a really good overview. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't use these things at all. Just saying if you do, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, and if at all possible, don't use it inside of production. But yeah, so this is a great overview of what it does. Fantastic product. I'm not going to knock it at all. But here's the thing with it, is to run this code, it's got to touch your WordPress database. So it's got to touch this database to figure out what to run and then to actually pull that code and run it. So that alone is going to give you some performance problems. Traditionally, you're going to run that PHP, JavaScript, CSS just straight from the file system, which is incredibly fast. And here you've got another layer. It's got to go into WordPress, then over to the file system if it's writing to the file system, or if not, if it's got to pull it from the database, then it's got to read the database to pull all that. Anyway, more steps, more performance problems. You're not going to see it on very small sites, but when you do have larger sites, especially ones that are getting a lot of traffic, that's when you really start to see it. So performance, there you go. Do I have any hard concrete numbers to share with you? No, I don't. And like I said, this is unscripted, so I don't have tons of research behind me. People that are smarter than me probably have done this. I'm sure if you search around and ask a WordPress security expert, they'll have lots of stuff for you. A WordPress performance expert will have lots of resources for you. I don't have that, but I can give you some general advice here. All right, so performance, big problem. Security, also a big problem. Again, you're going through the WordPress database, you're running code directly inside of WordPress that really should be run as PHP. And here's the thing. Anytime you start adding code snippets, you're introducing a security issue. And it's not the code snippet that I really have an issue with here. It's the fact that adding this additional plugin to run those snippets is just giving you one more attack vector. So even if someone were to come in today and do an audit on, again, WP Codebox or code snippets or any of these other things, do an audit on them and find that there's absolutely no vulnerabilities, that everything is tightened down, buttoned up as much as humanly possible, that's great. But these products are always coming out with updates. They're always coming out with bug fixes. And any of those updates, any of those bug fixes could introduce a security problem. And that security problem could then get passed on to whatever it is that you're running as your code snippet. Next thing you know, you've got some big problems. Again, there's security experts out there that can probably go on and talk about this for an hour. I'm not that guy, but I do know that every new piece of code that you add is going to add one more layer of security, not challenges, but one more attack vector. So trying to reduce that as much as possible is always going to be a good idea. Where do these things come into play? Like I said before, I think they're great for development. I think they are great for testing things out. I think they're great for maybe learning a new product or for playing with an idea. In some cases, even developing a client site is fine to have this thing loaded as you're putting all the pieces together. But before you go to production, you need to do something with all this code that you have in these snippet plugins, and you need to do something to make them production ready. And that's what I really want to talk about today, is how you make this stuff production ready. And there's really two different ways of doing this. One, if your theme builder, if your theme, if your page builder, whatever it is, supports it, use a child theme. That's definitely going to be the easiest way to go. And if you're not familiar with the child theme, let's just pull up some resources here that I grabbed. So a child theme is basically something that WordPress developed that sits in front of your main theme and then calls it. So it sits in front of your main theme, lets you run some code, so functions, lets you add style sheets, lets you do lots of stuff, and then calls your main theme. So this is the child theme. Your main theme would be your parent theme. So let's say, for example, you're using GeneratePress for your theme. You would have a GeneratePress child theme with your own custom functions, with your own custom PHP, with your own custom CSS in there. And then that child theme would call GeneratePress. And the reason for doing this is because you don't want to modify the theme files directly, since those theme files are going to get updated from time to time, and any of those updates are going to overwrite anything that you've modified in there. So you use this child theme and you put your modifications in there, and it adds to and overwrites whatever is in that main theme. It's a very common thing to do, and almost any major theme is going to either support it, or better yet, it might even give you a way to either download a boilerplate child theme or generate one. So let's take a quick look at it. Here in the developer resources for WordPress, it talks all about them, how to use them, how to create them by hand if you want to, what kind of things you can do by enqueuing style sheets and by enqueuing other scripts and style. Sorry, told you I'd stumble over my words. Really good resources. I always say go back to the WordPress developer resources whenever you can. They've got a lot of very good documentation here. And then you can go on and supplement that with whatever you have from your particular vendor. So this is the one that we have for WordPress. If we come in, I've got GeneratePress. So if you're using GeneratePress, all you have to do is do a Google search for GeneratePress child theme. You come up with this article here, and they have a child theme that you just download directly from GeneratePress, and you can modify straight from there. Cadence actually has a very cool thing. Let's click on this. Come on, let's get there. And I don't know why they don't promote this more than they do, but Cadence actually has a tool that generates a child theme for you. So you install this plugin and it'll read all the settings that you set inside the control panel for Cadence. And then it'll generate that child theme for you. You disable this plugin. Now you've got your child theme that you can modify however you want. Really, really super cool thing. There's 2 videos on YouTube about it and nothing else on the website. Although Cadence's website is not really the most complete thing in the world. So Cadence has a solution. GeneratePress has a solution. I'm not going to go through all of them. If you're a Bricks person, Bricks Builder, all you have to do is log into your dashboard and you will see it there. So even here, if you do a search for Bricks Builder child theme, you'll come to this article. It says log into your Bricks account. And it's actually right there, right near the download for Bricks itself. You've got the Bricks child theme. And then in there, you just enqueue your scripts and styles. I was actually surprised when I looked at it and saw that Elementor, I wasn't surprised that they had a child theme for their Hello theme because I knew that they did. I was actually surprised at how well documented it was from Elementor because it's Elementor. And here, when we take a look at this, it says, what a child theme is. It gives you really good resources on it, what it is, how to use it, how to customize it. Got some good examples here, but even better yet, if you go to their GitHub repo, you can download a sample child theme and take a look at it. So let's take a quick peek at this real quick. You like that? Let's take a quick peek at this because I think it will just show you how simple this is to use. And we're really just looking at a functions.php and a style.css in this example. So your functions.php, this is what calls the child theme or defines the child theme and then calls your parent theme. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We are enqueuing a style sheet and then we're telling it to run that it's a child theme for the Hello theme. Very simple. Anything that you would normally put in a code snippet or a functions.php can just get dropped right here in this functions.php and it's going to run. And then with this example, it's got this style.css file that's being enqueued. So you can put any of your custom CSS right in there and it's going to run as well. That actually makes me think about something that I didn't mention earlier. One of the other reasons why people do using these code snippet plugins, sometimes they do offer features like a Sass compiler that you do not get as part of WordPress built in. And that is a very valid reason to use this. But again, I'm going to say that once you've got your theme built, once you've done that development work inside your page builder, you go ahead and compile that Sass file and you're actually enqueuing the CSS file. You're not doing anything with that Sass file at all until you make your next modifications. So yeah, you can go ahead and use your snippet plugin to compile that if you want to, or you can just do it from VS Code and then bring in your CSS and use that directly. Yeah, it is going to give you some features like Sass that you don't get natively inside WordPress. That's okay. You're not running Sass natively inside the browser anyway. You're using the compiled CSS. Anyway, I digress. Back to Elementor. Yeah, so Elementor, I was really impressed by the fact that they had good documentation here and that they had a pretty decent child theme sample on GitHub. And this, again, just goes to show how simple a child theme really can be. I'm going to put a bunch of resources here in the description of the video. So I've got child theme for WordPress developer, GeneratePress child theme, Cadence child theme, Bricks Builder, Elementor child theme. Kinsta has a very good blog post all about how to create a child theme, what its purpose is, how to extend it. Kinsta has some fantastic articles. I would say use this whenever you see a Kinsta article. It's probably high quality, but this is good stuff right here. So child theme is one way to do it, probably the easiest way in a lot of cases. The other way that you can run these code snippets is by creating your own plugin, which a lot of people are going to think, holy crap, I'm creating a plugin. That's really hard to do. It's not. This is super simple stuff. Here, let's close some of these windows because I'm getting myself confused. Boom. All right. So creating custom plugin. That's going to be the other way that you can do this. And you can create a regular custom plugin, or you can create a must-use plugin inside WordPress. And they're both really easy to do. So again, I'm going to start off by pointing you to the WordPress developer resources, the plugin handbook. This is very, very thorough. You probably want to glance over this just to get an idea of what's going on. I wouldn't bother trying to read the whole thing though, especially for what we're doing here today. But I do want to make sure that you've got those resources. WP Engine and WP Beginner both have very good articles on how to build your own WordPress plugin though. So I would say take a look at either of these links that I'm going to drop in the description. So it talks about where they go, and filters to put in there. Please don't be afraid of any of these words. It's all very simple stuff. And when you follow these examples, you're going to get a feeling for just how simple it really is. Because at the end of the day, it all just comes down to putting a file in a directory, creating a header for it, and then putting your functions in. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you one that I've made that is just a very simple example. And am I in the right place? Yes, I am. Here we go. And this is just a simple example. I'm going to deactivate WP Codebox here. And I've got a pretty vanilla-ish install. And I've got this default settings plugin that I made. And this is something that I use from time to time on some of my projects. And we'll see when I activate this, you're going to see the comments go away here. If we take a look at the dashboard, I've got a bunch of garbage there in the dashboard. Activating this plugin is just going to set some basic preferences and settings inside WordPress for me. So I've activated my plugin. My dashboard's much cleaner now. You can see comments has gone from the sidebar there. I no longer have access to the file editor, stuff like that. So how did I build this? Not hard at all. Here inside of my directory in plugins, I've just created another directory that's going to hold the plugin files. And then I have a PHP file. This defines the plugin. And then just like you normally would do with a code snippet plugin, I just went ahead and created some subdirectories in here. And inside each one of these, I just have another PHP file that it calls with my snippets in there. So let's bring over VS Code and make this bigger so you guys can see it. And you can see just what's happening. Starting off, just define basic header stuff. And this is, you can grab this from any of those articles that I linked to, or you can get more information about these headers from the WordPress Developer Handbook. But yeah, so this just defines it, puts a description in there, gives it a version and a date, name, what have you. This line basically says if this PHP file is run directly, exit, because I don't want this thing to get run directly. I want it to be called by WordPress. Running PHP directly is a security problem. And then here, I'm just doing this include, and directory means the current directory. And then we are taking that directory and appending a subdirectory and a PHP name to it. So I just have in this plugin a bunch of includes for each one of my code snippets that would have been in a snippet plugin. And I've just written them out as separate files, and I'm including them here. I could put them all in this one plugin file and it would be totally fine. However, that doesn't give me a great way to organize them. I happen to have a lot of them here. So I like to call them out individually. It lets me add them, move them, change them, modify them, all pretty simply. And it just gives me a good way to organize it. I'm probably taking a bit of a performance hit by calling them each individually. Again, it's a trade-off that I make. I've got this broken down into default WordPress customizations that I do on almost every site that I work on, some extra functions that I use from time to time, some security related things, performance related functions, special purpose functions, ACF and metabox functions, things like that. Some general utility functions that I would use from time to time, things like allowing SVG code, adding a date shortcode, and even a PHP file that will, or a PHP function that will let me send mail through the SMTP server that's defined in there. Basically lets me get rid of a SMTP plugin. So I use Postmark to send SMTP mail through WordPress. And rather than using a plugin, Fluent SMTP or WP Mail, this little script lets me do it. And then I have some theme specific functions in here that will add a custom post type if I need to. It'll add stuff to a custom color palette, add theme specific functions to this plugin, and then theme specific styles getting queued here. So all pretty simple. I'm not going to go through what each of these are, and you'll probably see some of these things and be like, whoa, some of this is pretty ugly, but It is organized nicely. It runs very clean. Here we go, dashboard cleanup. So this is one of them that I think almost everyone does, is they're going to run a function that cleans up your dashboard. So this is a perfect example of something that you can just call from a custom plugin and it'll handle it. I would put this normally in a functions.php and a child theme, or you can do it with custom plugin route, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to share with you, is be aware. Awareness is really the biggest reason why I wanted to have this conversation today, is to be aware that this is an issue, that even though you're seeing everyone else using these plugins, that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. Yes, it is very easy to use them. Yes, it makes a lot of sense to use them in development, but for production, try not to do it. Either put this stuff inside of a child theme, put it inside of your own plugin, or find something else, because it's not necessary to have them in production. And you really are creating the potential for problems down the road. So that's the end of my rant today. I've gone on way longer than I ever anticipated going on. I appreciate you bearing with me here. I apologize for any verbal screw ups that I have, and I will see you guys next time. All right, take care.